I'm joined by University of Central Oklahoma defensive coordinator Cody Swanson. Coach, thank you for taking time this afternoon to come on and talk to us. Could you start by telling the viewers and listeners a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Cody Swanson. I was originally born and raised in Emporia, Kansas. Grew up there, went to high school at Emporia High. After high school, I went to Highland Community College for a year, played defensive end there. After Highland, I actually went to Emporia State University, played defensive line there, graduated, got my master's. So born and raised, in Kansas, recruited Oklahoma pretty heavy. And then now, to the point where I'm at now, it's me, my wife, Jordan, who actually ran track at Emporia. And then we have two little boys, Ronan and Maddox. So Maddox is 2 years old. Ronan just turned 4 months old. So, 2 under 2 was rough there for a little bit. It wasn't easy. But after Emporia, I GA'd there, went to Goudeau University. I was the defensive line coach under Bryan Nardo, who is our defensive coordinator. He was the first coach to give me my first full-time job there. And then after that 2022 season, Coach Nardo obviously went to Oklahoma State to be the defensive coordinator. And so me and Coach Pearson got promoted to be co-DCs at Goudeau. And then following that season, made the trip here to Edmond.
Okay, so now you mentioned you're born and raised, bred Kansas. So for those of us that might not know, how kind of would you describe the high school football scene in the state of Kansas?
Yeah, so, when I was at Emporia, one thing, we recruited Oklahoma very heavy because Coach Higgins, being from Shawnee, Oklahoma, we recruited Texas very heavy. And to me, the thing about Kansas football is what we really saw, the kids that came in, number one, they really had a love for the game. When they walked into Emporia, there's a lot of very hardworking individuals, just like myself. But the biggest thing was the amount of development through your first 2 years. Kansas high school football, there is some very, very good teams. You have Derbies, St. Thomas Aquinas, all of those schools. And then you also have the 8-man football teams. And those kids, when we came in, they developed very fast. We actually had a few all-conference kids during my time that was Kansas or Oklahoma 8-man kids. So, Kansas football, it's definitely a place where they take that step in college and they take a huge development and just a whole bunch of tough kids that want to play football and want to be better.
Now you mentioned you played high school football. It took some digging. I found your high school highlights. Now I'm gonna read you. My scouting notes and tell me if this is accurate or not. All right. So the first thing that jumped off at me, you had a very quick first step. I mean, you fired off the ball. You were shooting the gaps well. I saw a nice spin move there. I saw good form tackling. I saw a high motor, your high energy, chasing ball carriers down the field. You also played some fullback. I really love fullbacks. I feel like they're very underappreciated there. With my scouting report, first of all, would that be an accurate scouting report of your high school playing days?
No, absolutely. I may have looked better on film than I actually was. It's actually kind of crazy. My senior year of high school, game one, I actually tore meniscus. So I played my entire year from the second drive on one. I think it was week 4 or 5. We played Topeka High. I actually tore lateral meniscus, played on it. So a lot of that, was me playing injured, and then I actually tore my ACL, and I had 3 meniscus tears by the time my senior year was over. So, a lot of that, I was not healthy, just trying to get through it and have fun with all my high school teammates.
Okay, how are we playing on 2 torn meniscus though? I feel like I've heard people playing with like high ankle sprains, maybe some I don't know, shoulder sprain, but we're talking 2 torn meniscus. How are you playing through that?
Honestly, there for a while, I thought I was being a little baby, to be honest with you. I didn't know what was wrong. We did team runs after, and I just thought I was sore for after the game. So every time it would get better by about Thursday, we'd play on a Friday. And then that early next week, I was out for a few days. But I'll never forget when I had my MRI, my mom and my dad, they came to the high school and they're like, well, you weren't lying. Like, your meniscus tears don't have any blood in them. So, like, they were torn all season. Some of it, I just think the mindset is I didn't want to let down my teammates and, my best friends and go play ball with everybody when I could.
So from there, you mentioned you moved on to Highland Community College. Now, I know last chance you was kind of showing some spotlight on junior college football. I've talked to several junior college players. What was your junior college experience like?
Eye-opening originally, to be quite honest with you. Coming back from my rehab, I was not nearly as athletic as I was in high school, trying to gain weight to play in a three-man front as well. And I'll never forget that first day, we ran 16 110s and squatted after. And then it was at 5:45 in the morning. And I walked off the field and I was like, I do not know if this is for me. And there's me and my best friend, Josh Pearson. And I remember we were walking and we both looked at each other like, this is going to be tough, but it's going to be fun. I loved everything about it. Met a lot of really good people. I learned a lot just of different people's backgrounds, upbringings, what makes them. But Kansas and the Jayhawk is very, very good football. Our middle linebacker was the number one linebacker in the country. And just me seeing him play and prepare was phenomenal. And it helps me as a coach today because he was calling everything out before the snaps. But that's kind of
you touched on. Oh no, go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say that was kind of the first time I realized that, junior college, not everybody's there for themselves, but a majority of the people are there to better their life, to better themselves. So that was the first time I saw like the different level of intensity of people need football. And, at Emporia High, we had a few people like that, but not anybody that needed football to better their life or better their situation. So that was kind of one thing that struck me was I need to work harder. Everybody thinks they're the hardest worker on the team. In high school, you might be, but you get to a college level, it's a whole nother intensity. And that was one thing I really took it away is you had the people that want to play football and you have the people that need to play football to better themselves.
And I feel like you see that kind of respected in some of the play when they get to your 4-year institutions. We've had great success in my time covering with junior college players. They come in. I feel like they come in. I always say with a chip on their shoulder, something to prove there. And so you kind of going into more detail about that, I think kind of just expounds upon that. Now you mentioned you went through obviously the rehab. What was that process like?
So my senior year of high school, I think it was easy because I was trying to get back to either play college baseball or college football. I was actually recruited for baseball before I ever was football going into my senior year. And it was just kind of having that hunger to get back to play. Growing up, I always had to pay for my own college, so I couldn't afford it if I didn't have a football scholarship to go help pay for it. And that was one thing that really drove me home. The other side is I actually tore my other ACL and meniscus in junior college. So I only played in 2 defensive snaps. I played in special teams. And after my second injury was the hardest rehab. Lost a lot of motivation. Pushing myself to come back at the 6-month mark from 4 tears was tough. And then instantly that getting taken away was very hard on me mentally. My wife was there, obviously, and she really helped me and mentally see where that end goal is. And it's kind of one thing that gets me into like, why do I coach is trying to help people out. And at that time, I had some junior college teammates that was there for me. Like I said, my best friend, Josh Pearson from Emporia, played with me. And so he helped me get through it and kind of find that end of the tunnel. But injuries are a part of college football. And I think it's all about your culture as a team of how fast is somebody going to come back? How hard is somebody going to push? Or is somebody going to fight through an ankle sprain, that type of situation?
You mentioned having the support, but I still, after 4 tears, at some point, did it ever think, okay, maybe it's just time to hang it up, pursue other avenues? The game's gotten me so far already. Did that ever cross your mind? Mm-hmm. And if it did, how did you kind of overcome that?
Yeah, so after I tore my second ACL in 2015, I actually quit playing for 2 years. I went to Emporia High School. I was a high school D-line coach, ran the freshman defense for 2 years. Um, really helped me as a coach. You see coaching freshmen to seniors in high school are completely different, and just honestly see how can you layer things to make somebody better. And I'll never forget, I was sitting at an Emporia State game with my wife in the stands. They were playing Washburn, which is obviously Emporia's biggest rival. And I looked at my wife and I was like, I think I can still play. And she looked at me, just kind of shook her head. And then that day I was like, I'm going back to play. And I was, I think, 189 pounds at that point because I was losing all the weight from rehab and playing. And I walked into Coach Nardo's office, asked to walk on, and that's kind of where I got back to my playing career. Is I walked on for that spring and got put on scholarship the following year and finished playing out. But the injuries did take the game away from me for a little bit, but ultimately at the end of the day, it made me find my love for it again. And I'll never forget sitting in those stands. And that kind of brings me to who I am today. Is a lot of people have to have something taken away from you in order for you to find the true love. So being here for the kids, being there, but honestly telling them my story, a lot of the kids are like, all right, coach is in this for the right reason. We're going to go play some ball.
So when you walked on, that was your first time playing in a few years. What kind of were the challenges of starting to play again after taking that time off?
First of all, is just getting your body back ready for the consistent pounding it's going to take. The main thing is Coach Higgins has a very good culture there at Emporia State. So me going into it wasn't me coming in as a walk-on for the culture. It was me coming in there to compete and try to go earn a spot. So I'd say the hardest part in totality was just finding the groove again of the amount of time it takes to be a very good college football player. The easy part was I had more love for the game than I ever had. So going to workouts, going to run, going to do 7-on-7, all of that stuff to me was fun. It was no longer the part of I have to go to practice. Every day was I get to go to practice, or I get to go watch film. I get to go be around Coach Laporto. And that to me was the biggest positives from the injury, was just the switch in mindset.
And I know you appeared in 3 games in 2018. Just talk about what was the emotion when you finally played in that first game?
Yeah, I'll never running on the field for the first time, just looking to get the call. Whenever you get those feelings of like everything I did was for a reason. I'll never forget, I didn't play very much my first year, like you said, in 2018 in 3 games, but I could probably name majority of those Missouri Southern reps, which was one of the first games I really got to get in and play. And just getting in, playing, once again, finding everything was for a reason. And going into that offseason, getting to play in 3 games, the amount of confidence Coach Laporto brought into me was the main factor of, the development from the 2018 to 2019 season.
And then your final year, you played in all 11 games. You had 17 tackles, 3 VFLs, 1 sack. How I guess what does it mean to know that through all the injuries, the ups and downs, the time off, you were able to end your career on the field in a meaningful way?
Yeah, it was everything. And me coming back to play, there was always layers. Like, I loved football. I always wanted to play. I also always wanted to coach after my freshman year of college. So me getting the opportunity to go play, go learn under a few really good coaches started my career. And it was always something of, why did I want to come back and play? Is I wanted to be a coach. And then just at the end of that 2019 season, I was actually trying to get a medical from my junior college injuries. So I was training all the way up till early July. I think it was late January or late June, early July. And then the NCAA didn't give me an extension. So that 2019 season, I actually thought it was going to be my junior year. So that was kind of different. It got shut off a little early for me. And it actually started my coaching career of going to be a graduate assistant at Emporia under Coach Laporta.
Now that's interesting you mentioned that, because we hear so much about applying for waivers and you getting denied. What was that process like of applying for that medical hardship?
Yeah, so the main thing for me was I hit my 10 semester limit right before COVID. So with us not having proper documentation of like, why did I sit out for 2 years? That was kind of the main reason I didn't get it. But to start it, you had to have, a physical therapist sign off and kind of talk about why did your rehab take so long. For my scenario, it was back-to-back ACL tears. They didn't really want to push me too hard in the rehab and kind of have a long, drawn-out process. So a lot of that with the NCAA is just they want to make sure before they grant you that waiver that everything that you have done was for a reason that was outside of your control. And that is the PT notes, your doctor notes, anything that you claimed of why did you sit out. So it's kind of a long, drawn-out process. I think we started it before that spring semester, and it took all the way till June, July for me to figure it out that if I was going to get granted or if I wasn't.
Okay. Yeah, because I know it's kind of in a gray area, but it's not really known what that process is like, what kind of all goes into it. So, okay, cool. I appreciate that. So once you learn that your eligibility had run out, then how do we transition back into coaching as a grad assistant?
For me or just in general?
For you.
Okay. So for me, I actually volunteered for that first semester because it was way too late. Emporia didn't have any paid graduate assistant openings. And bless my wife, she helped me make it through that with me not getting paid for 6 months. But I was actually working at my uncle's house when Coach Laporta called me and said that I was not granted the extension. And he told me, he said, I would love to have you back. You can come help me. There's just no money here for this semester, but put your faith into me and hopefully there will be money at the end of the semester for you. So a lot of it was just having faith in Coach Higgins, having faith in Coach Laporta that, everything I was about to do was for a reason. So I instantly just started working for free directly under Coach Laporta. And then after that fall semester, Coach Higgins, had a graduate assistant job open up for me. I was lucky to find somewhere. And sometimes finding a graduate assistant job is very hard because it's so limited, especially D1s, D2s, or D3s. It's all about, knowing people or, for example, somebody knowing you and passing your name along.
And I feel you have a different perspective because, most GAs, they're just fresh off of playing, but you have previous coaching experience at your old high school. So how much did that help you in your transition back into coaching?
Oh, it was awesome. Coach Laporta at Emporia, whenever we started, almost from day one, I had to earn that he could trust me coaching. But he really just gave me freedom to go coach the defensive ends. So going through it, we also had COVID in there where there was a lot of different rule changes. So it wasn't really my first year of going in to coach for a season. It was more of a long, drawn-out process. So I'll never forget just me and Coach Laporta sitting there watching a lot of film together, just breaking it down, getting together like packages. And going into that 2021 season, he told me, he said, I want you to bring me like a 4-man pass rush game. And I put everything together, went and presented it to him. And then going into that season, Coach Laporta coached the defensive tackles, and then I would go and I would coach the defensive ends. And we would meet together on practice plans. But, he really let me run my own position, which was huge for me, especially in recruiting too. He had a lot of my opinions and who did we want to bring in, and we'd watch film together. And he honestly gave me a really good jump start to my career because when Coach Nardo called me, I've had the recruiting experience. I had the experience of running my own room, coaching my own position group. And that's where I think it's kind of different is some graduate assistants, you don't get to run a room or you don't get to coach your position group. And Coach Laporta did give me that opportunity.
And from a recruiting standpoint, right? Because I obviously you'd have been on the other side of that as a player. So, kind of having gone through that, how much did that help you in return trying to recruit others to come play for you?
I think a big part of a culture of a football program is your players are your best recruiters. Like, I can bring players in, they can see the facilities, but if you don't have a culture on your team or you don't have a culture in a position group, it's going to struggle. So it really started just me hosting players. I was a host for Rylan Miller and Rafe Goucher at Emporia when I was a player. And then, so just that transition, it took a little bit of time of Coach Laporto teaching me of like, what do you look for in terms of the correct fit? So now I'm a huge aspect of, bringing in the correct fit of people. There's a lot of really good football players, but if it is not the correct culture, or if that athlete's mentality is not what you want into a room, you don't have to bring everybody in. So it really helped with me right now, just being younger too, being able to relate with the players. I like to have a lot of fun with them, bring a lot of energy. And that is one thing I do use in recruiting right now is, the age factor of, I'll go out there, I'll do drills with you. I'll go run with you. If we're wrestling, I may hop in a little wrestling match with you. And that is kind of one thing that's going to set our culture here is just everybody is in it for each other. There is no individuals. It's all selflessness and celebrating together.
And what I found interesting is during your time as a GA, though, not only were you helping with the D line, you were also assisting with the strength conditioning, special teams, and then you were also an assistant football academic coordinator. How are you balancing all of those roles?
That is where I think Coach Higgins, his coaching tree is so big, is he does a great job of getting you prepared for a job. So for me, it does sound like a lot, but he was getting me prepared for a full-time job. If you don't know what your side duty is, or you don't know what somebody needs. So helping Coach Goodman in the weight room with Ethan Sharp was the other GA with me, is, Coach Goodman would program it and then he would ask us for our opinion. What do we want to change? What do we want to do with running? So we had that hand-on experience with, scaffolding and being prepared of what you want to be known for. And Coach Goodman was very good, and he helped me with establishing a culture in the weight room. So that way, and that did transition to Gandon when I had to run the weight room. And then the academic aspect of it was Coach Laporto was the academic coordinator. So me working directly under him, I got a lot of the hands-on experience of how do you set up the correct study hall, or how can you create a schedule for the players to be successful so they know that there's accountability. As long as, also running the defensive end room. So my main thing is that is all Coach Higgins. He is going to be hard on you as a coach, but everything is for a reason. Everything is to prepare you. And, he's honestly helped me get a few jobs. So my main thing as a graduate assistant is don't be too big for any job. So the second that there was something open, I was going to volunteer myself to try to go help whoever is in charge of it.
And your D line in 2021, all three of the starters earned all conference. What kind of did that mean to you to see, I guess, maybe the results of your hard work kind of pay off with those guys getting those kinds of honors?
Yeah, so going into the 21 season was very unique because I just got done playing with everybody. And going through COVID, there was a good transition of me being in the weight room and really taking that transition from a player to a coach. So going into that season, Merrick Thompson was one of the starting DNs. At this point, he was already a two-time all-conference kid and somebody that I looked up to when I was a player and would watch how he prepared, how did he look at the game. And then that really helped me coach Jordan Williams, who was a sophomore at that time. He was one of the only freshmen that played in my senior year. We had 4 senior defensive ends. And I really took a big presence in Jordan Williams because he had every physical tool to be very good. And it was really just simplifying the game and teaching him those small details. So seeing him transition as a freshman to a sophomore, it was not very much of my coaching in terms of he understood the game and he is very good. The big piece of that was Rafe Goucher being a freshman and being an all-conference kid. And just there was so much attention with me and Coach Laporto of coaching those guys daily. There's different types of coaching, and there's a really good balancing act of it. But going after that season of just seeing the all-conference honors in the MIAA, which is very competitive, it was more of along the lines of, what do you look for in a recruit? What do you look for in a mentality in terms of my coaching? Is the players will be as good as they want to be. It's just you got to create that standard within the room, and that is what Coach Laporto is very good at.
And then after that season, Coach Nardo calls. You make the move from Emporia, Kansas, all the way to Pennsylvania. Talk about how that came about and what that process of pretty much moving from your home state, where you pretty much have been your whole life, across the country to Pennsylvania.
Man, during that time, I was applying for a lot of Division II jobs, and honestly, some within the MIAA, and I never once got a call back. So at this point, I was getting kind of discouraged, and talking to my wife of, coaching is what I want to do. It'll be what I do until I die, Lord willing. But when Coach Nardo called, I was actually working out. And when he was like, I'm going to Gannon University, it's in Erie, Pennsylvania, I looked it up and it said 17 hours away. And I was like, whew, Coach, that's a long ways. At that point, we had a 2-week-old, which was, Maddox was 2 weeks old. And talking to Coach Nardo, he made a statement that has stuck through me, and it's something I really live my life by. He was like, Swanee, just put your trust into me that I'm bringing you to a good position. And I remember sitting there, and I was like, playing under Coach Nardo, he never lied to me. He always was being truthful, 100% upfront with me. And I went home, talked to my wife, and I said, we just need to put our faith into Coach Nardo, if this is a situation he's telling us about. And shortly after that, I think I was hired late January, right before signing day. And then me, my wife, 3 dogs, and a 2-week-old were heading to Pennsylvania. And, it was good for us. I love Emporia, and I love the Midwest, which is a huge reason of me coming back. But it was good for my wife and I to get out and just grow, see a different side of, the U.S., but honestly, just grow together as a family was the most beneficial.
And you all did an amazing job there in 2022. I mean, you went from the year before, they allowed almost 30 points a game, almost 400 yards a game, to then allowing only 21.9 points per game and 287 point yards a game. How were you all able to make that big of a jump in your first year there?
Some of it, a lot of it is Coach Nardo and his scheme. But to me, a lot of your success is not schematics. It is all culture. And going into there, the players needed a coach to believe in them. And when we got there, really just changing the culture in terms of take the individuals out of it, celebrate together, create unity, create all of that selflessness aspects of it. Because we had every player, that return from that previous year, they just needed the confidence within themselves to really take that next step, to be quite honest with you. And some of that is just getting buy-in. And to me, buy-in is all about relationships. And for those players, they needed a coach that would believe in them. So day one going in there was talking to each one of, what is our vision for you? What is our vision for the defense? And to me, that success is nothing of our coaching. It is all about the relationships that the players had with us. It's all about the relationships that the players had within themselves of being relentless, playing with effort, and then, just having that culture of we are going to win is huge to me.
And then the last season, Coach leaves for OSU. Then you get promoted to Cody for the coordinator. So in a matter of literally a couple of years, you went from being a GA to kind of helping run your own unit. Did that? I guess how did that transition go? Because that's obviously a massive jump in a short amount of time. So
yeah.
I guess what kind of did it mean to you to be able to rise up that quickly?
What I will say for coaches, players is you're not ready for something unless you do it. And learning under Coach Nardo was huge for me in terms of the run fits, the coverages, how can you manipulate stuff within 3 high. And he taught me a lot. There's a lot of times where we would just go in and we'd just be watching film and he's teaching me there's so many different ways to run quarters, but what do you want to be known for? I guess the transition was, I also have to talk about Coach Pearson, who was there with us. He was there with the previous staff, so he was really the guy to talk to us about a few of the small details to help take us to the next step. And when we made that transition, Coach Pearson and I, we talked to each other and we both said we wouldn't want to do this with anybody else because there's a few slogans that I firmly believe in. And number one is ego's the enemy. A lot of people ask me and Coach Pearson, like, how did you do it being co-coordinators and planning and calling the plays on defense? And I'll tell you, there was never an issue in the season where we got into an argument, which is where a lot of the coaches were like, that's impressive. So a lot of our success of the transition was just me and Coach Pearson, our relationship we had together. And then I do think that the players truly bought into it. And I am big on having a lot of fun and giving the players ownership, because if they have ownership of something, they have belief. They have the answer to how can we be good. And that was one thing that we really pushed into each other is it's easy to go to practice when the players have a say. It's not easy to go to practice when everything a coach tells you what to do is negative, in my opinion. So that was the big culture shift of the success. And then getting to this point now, I think it's a lot of the players at Gannon and the amount of buy-in that they had. And one thing I want to be known for is culture. I think scheme is scheme. You're going to win a championship with a 4-man, 3-man front, a bear front. It doesn't matter as long as everybody is bought in to play together. And there is a standard. So what we will always say is, what is our standard? And we still have to find it here, obviously. But as long as you're relentless with effort and attitude, being selfless, tough, and disciplined, we'll be perfectly fine. So, yeah, I was actually talking to somebody how it is quick. In 2 years, I went from being a GA to a position coach to a co-coordinator to a defensive coordinator. And, a lot of it is just in this profession, if you think you know everything, you're done. And that's one thing I always want to do is clinic and build relationships with other coaches and, keep expanding my knowledge of the game.
So now you had a great run up in Gannon. So then how do we go from Gannon to where we are now with you at UCO?
Yeah, so it was actually right before a recruiting visit at Gannon. I had a missed call, and I've never told Coach Dorrell this, but I was getting ready for the visit and missed call from a Missouri number, and I didn't even listen to the voicemail. Like the messages will pop up, and it didn't have his name correct, and it was just something with UCO, love to talk to you. And I called him back, and for about 20 minutes, I had no idea who I was talking to for a second. And we were just talking about my family, my situation here. What do I want to be known for? And then he asked a question and he said, how is your philosophy different on 1st and 2nd down to 3rd down? And my wife was actually beside me because Maddox was about to go run in the indoor before this visit. And I looked at my wife and I said, this is an interview. Like, I don't know who I'm talking to. So just talking to Coach Dorrell of what do I want to be known for? Like, what scheme do I want to run? And Coach Dorrell has in mind what he wants to do and, obviously why he brought me here. But after I talked to Coach Dorrell, I had a Zoom interview with Dorrell and Coach Leck and just talking about defensive line play, things to do different in the 3-high system than what they were doing, how to manipulate run fits. And after that, I actually talked to Coach Rayburn, who is our head coach at Gannon, and very, very smart coach, somebody I look up to a lot in this profession. He's been very successful. And I told him about just the interview. And him and I talking about it was, it's closer to home. It's in the Midwest for me and my family. We're 3 hours from my parents. We're 3 hours from her dad, which is huge for me. This is the first time I had a chance to put my family first. of my wife. She works from home. It's tough on her to be the only one home all the time. So that was a huge part of my decision. But Coach Rayburn, he told me, was being a young coach in the profession, always take an interview, always talk to the coaches, because it's going to be something for you to learn of. And that was something that I'm very grateful for Coach Rayburn. Was he knew of the opportunity, and every time I walked into the office, him and I were sitting there laughing, talking football, and watching film together. So after that, Coach Dorrell and Coach Leck, they offered me the job to come here as the D-line coach. And then once I got here, me and Coach Leck were kind of talking a little bit of football. I was told from Coach Leck that he was going to Millsap to be the head coach there. And then it was actually about a week later, we were sitting in the staff room just talking, and Coach Dorrell, before he even told me, he told the staff that I was going to be the defensive coordinator. And it was something that we talked about and kind of my visioning of trying to get here. I wanted to learn under Coach Leck and some of the stuff that he did. And then once he told the team that, or he told the coaching staff that I was the DC, he told the team directly after. So, I originally came here as the D-line coach and, really wanting to kind of put my blueprint on some of the changes that we'll make. And everything just kind of happened with Coach Leck taking that job, and everything fell in order.
So now, having come here to be a position coach, then you got thrust into being the DC. So now you, in turn, have to assemble your staff here fairly quickly, because we're it's recruiting time and all that. So what was that process like of filling out your own staff for kind of the first time fully?
Yeah, so Coach Dorrell, he brought me into his office, and this was after he told the staff that I was going to be the defensive coordinator, and he was kind of talking about, what do I need to be successful? What do I need to be confident within the MIAA? And, he said that we had 2 openings on defense with Leck leaving, and he kind of mentioned of, you could bring in a D-line coach. We have Coach Harwell here to be a linebackers coach. He knows the 3 high with Leck. It'll be a good chance for us to mix our ideas. And I told him, I said, Coach, I want to bring in 2 DBs coaches. And the main reasoning for that is, with what we're going to do, it's a lot on the back end. And knowing my personality, if I was not coaching a position, people probably wouldn't like me, because I'd be micromanaging everybody, sitting in their meetings and, writing notes on how to critique them. Just who I am. I want to be competitive. I want to be good. So, holding the coaches to that standard. So he asked me, he's like, well, with you wanting to hire 2 DBs coaches, do you have anybody in mind? And, before I left Gannon, I was talking to Coach Pearson of, kind of what is he wanting? How is his life? And, he didn't want to leave Gannon. He was very happy there. Same with me. It was tough to make this decision because of the players there. And when I called him and just told him about the opportunity, it was the same exact answer that I had, was this is a chance for him to put his family first. And his wife being a nurse, Erie compared to OKC, it's a lot better situation for her. And so I told Coach Dorrell that Coach Pearson is interested. And then kind of what Coach Dorrell wanted was, me having in mind, bring somebody in to help me schematically in the back end. And then this was big for Coach Dorrell, was bringing in somebody for all about technique. And after the season, or in 2022, we had Kamau Dumas, and he was our restricted earnings corners coach. And I'll never forget, there was days me walking off the field, and there was times I would stop my D-line practice. I would send them to get water so I could watch KD and TP run their DB drills. And so I call Coach KD, and I said, hey, this isn't a possibility for you. Would you be interested in moving your family from Jersey all the way to Oklahoma? And, both of those guys hopped on a Zoom call with Coach Dorrell. We also interviewed other people. And after the Zoom calls, Coach Dorrell brought me into his office, and he was like, hey, I need to talk to you about something that's been on your mind. And I remember telling my wife, I was like, the way he was talking to me, I thought there was bad news coming. And I shut the door. I was like, oh, man, Coach Dorrell, all right, I'm ready for it. And he was, gave me his opinion on Coach Pearson and Coach KD. And, I'm very grateful of bringing those guys here, because it's a perfect fit for me, like I said, I want to be known for culture. Schematics are schematics. And with what Coach Dorrell is trying to build here and what I am trying to build on the defensive side of the ball, I can't find two people that are more deserving. So, Coach Pearson was a defensive coordinator at Ottawa for, I think, 7 years. He was the co-DC with me going back to Ego's the Enemy. If I can work with that man and we're both co-DCs, we're calling it, there's not going to be an issue coming here. And then bringing in Coach KD he is a tactician. I think he is very, very good at what he does with corner play. And with his time at Wagner, he learned a lot. And I knew that on his interview because he was talking about different coverages that we didn't run at Gannon, and he was teaching it to us. So, the band is back together in Oklahoma. We always joke about that. We were just with Coach Nardo yesterday, clinicking with them of some of the different stuff that we're going to add. And, it's a surreal feeling of, I know that the back end, the DBs, for example, are going to get very good coaching because there's 2 full-time guys back there. Obviously, watching the film, I thought the linebacker core was very good. And just talking to Coach Harwell, he is a very smart football player. But to me, the main thing is the kids love him. Seeing him in the weight room with them, just seeing the way he talks to them, the culture is going to be here of exactly of what I want. So it's a perfect fit. Couldn't find, a perfect duo to run the back end with Coach Pearson and Coach KD. And I think Coach Harwell, he's the players coach. You should see him in meetings as a team meeting. When Coach Dorrell said that he was a linebackers coach, that room just exploded. So, it's a surreal feeling to have so much support on the defensive side of the ball.
And having Coach Nardo essentially just down the road in Stillwater, how kind of big of a plus is that for you to have someone that you respect personally, professionally, kind of to maybe bounce some things off? Like how big is having him so close by for you?
Yeah, a huge thing is me, TP, KD, and Nardo's. We're all very close family-wise. So just us having the chance for my wife to go see Emma and have our kids go play together, to me, that is vital for everybody. In the scheme of coaching, I could call Coach Nardo and we could just sit there and talk about football for hours. And it's something that him and I are really close about, is just how to change stuff. But to me, it's surreal having everybody here in Oklahoma, seeing all of our kids play together. In 2022, Coach KD had his kid. And obviously going through the season, you don't really get a chance to see your family too much. But now when I got to see Ezra again, it was just kind of a surreal feeling to have everybody. And us going to see Coach Nardo, seeing his 2 little kids grow is awesome. So it is going to help us defensively, just us being able to drive over there and clinic with them. And I have these ideas to that I want to run, you as a DC at Oklahoma State, like pick it apart for me. And hopefully we see some success with it. But to me, the end of the day, it's all about the relationships and our families being back closer.
Now earlier, I know you mentioned some things, especially about the front and the back end. Now, I know last year that was kind of a sore spot to some that followed the program, especially in the early part of last season. In the back end, I felt like more busts than we should have. It got better down the stretch. I think we only ended up allowing about 200 yards a game passing. So it kind of even out, but how we got there maybe wasn't the best. What kind of can fans expect to see out of the secondary this season? Maybe in terms of mindset, and style of play and things of that nature.
Yeah, so I'm not going to speak on the past. Something I really want to hone in with our players is, big time is where you make it. Right now, our feet are here right now with our mentality to go win in spring ball, like go compete. Overall defensive wise, what we always say when we go to recruit and our mentality is we want to bring in runners and hitters. And one thing I firmly believe I'll talk to our players about is what we are trying to instill into them is what we call chaos. And, the word chaos is, everybody hears it and they think of just everything is going on, No, being relentless chaos is being relentlessly confident, which is a C in it. Is, to me, players are only as good as confidence. And us as coaches, we are not here to break down the players. We are here to build them up. We are here to make them the best versions of themselves on the field and off the field, building those relationships. And the main thing of the culture for everybody is being humble. Something that we will do is celebrating together, take the individuals out of it. We're all on the field together. Holding everybody accountable in terms of on the field, where are your eyes, technique wise, like don't do your own thing. Like, let's do this thing together. But also being accountable off the field academically, like go hang out with each other. I shouldn't have to worry about you guys. The oneness, and I think this will be something that you'll see in the season of, we have celebrations we do as a team, as a defense. There's not individual celebrations. And it's something that I want to be known for. If you look at a lot of the Gannon players when they tweet, when I tweet, the I love you celebration is huge. It is, to me, ego hurts you, ego hurts your family whenever you have a decision of it. So take the ego out of playing, and you don't care if you're the guy that makes a play. You don't care if you're the guy that makes a TFL. You care about doing your job so the DBs can get an interception. You care about doing your job off of the field so Central Oklahoma is always into the positive and a bright part of Edmond. And then the last thing is just being smart. And that is why it was important for me to bring in 2 full-time defensive back coaches. It is a lot on them back there. And there's chances that if you do too much, it slows them down. So we want to make everything simple. We want to make these guys extremely confident and to go trust themselves and build that belief of success. So right now, I think it's getting them to believe in my scheme, getting them to believe in my system, but all of it boils down to chaos. So my main thing is, you're going to see a lot of effort. You're going to see a lot of swagger in terms of they're going to be confident, humble, accountable, oneness, and smart. And my main thing is, this is a game. It's going to be fun for them. We're going to have a lot of energy on the sideline in all 3 levels, but it all boils down to the culture of celebrate together. Take the ego out, take the individuals out of the game of football, and I think it's special. That's when your culture is set, is nobody cares what you do. And that is one thing why I took this job, is talking to Coach Dorrell, of talking about what his envision is. Why was he 55-2 at Northwest, in those 2013 to 2016 seasons? It's culture. It's all about recruiting. And he said something that I also believe in, of like sweeping the sheds of the all-black rugby team in Australia. Of they don't have janitors. They clean everything themselves. They do the laundry themselves. And I figured out that our players do the laundry. Coaches don't do the laundry. Like, they clean the locker room themselves. They have positions weekly that do it. And to me, the culture is set. Now me coming in, it's just, how can I make this better? So when you ask, like, what are we going to expect in the back end? A lot of confidence, a lot of energy, and a lot of just clips of them trusting themselves to go make a play, to be quite honest with you.
I think that's a positive, because last year, well, and even now, you have some returning guys that are more of a high energy. Your Jonathan Mosleys, your J.K. Moores. Those were guys that played with confidence. 11 out of 11 games. Mosley, in my opinion, maybe was the most improved last year. He took a tremendous step forward in coverage. He had, I think, the vast majority of our picks. J.K. had 2 big picks as well. So I think that there is talent in that room. I was told Dylan Buckheit is still back. He missed last season. He's one of the better safeties in the conference. Kobe Stevens is a really versatile player too. So I think that kind of was a thing last year. Is maybe we're more talented than what we were showing. So I know that kind of was a concern. You also mentioned earlier the run defense, and I know that was a big concern for us. This past season, we ended up switching to a 4-man front. It got better. But I know the thought is stick to the 3-man front. Obviously, again, and you all had really solid run defenses out of the 3-man front. We did 2 back in 2022. So how can I guess you bring that stout run defense out of a 3-man front back to Edmond?
Me just being here for a short amount of time, you going back to the energy with JMO, JK, that is impressive. And it is Coach Dorrell in terms of we do weight room grades, and he does not believe in leading by example. And I always told kids, like, I'd lead by example, guys. And when he said that in a staff meeting, I was sitting there, and then I watched in a weight room. The guys that lead by example, they do things right, but who are they pulling with them? And when I was a player, I was like, oh, I'm going to be a lead by example type of guy. You see J-Mo out there, and he is just talking to anybody, quarterbacks, long snappers, O linemen, D linemen. And I turn around and I just see people smiling. That is what's like the energy, the want to be good here is second to none. So when you talk about like run fits and all of that, I think we have very good players here that can do it. For me, what I think makes us different than a lot of 3-man odd front teams is I always start in the run fits in terms of like, what can we do in the coverage? And to this point, I think that is what separates us is we have 8 different run fits of how to adjust, how to multiply, how to run different cover 3s and change up the box. How can we run match cover 3 and be stout in the run? It's important to be able to change who your mic is, who your boxer is, who your splitter is based upon every alignment rule that you have. So going into the season, it's going to be a lot on the guys to learn of, where do you fit? Why do you do things with gap scheme? But at the end of the day, it all goes back to the belief. So when you talk about run scheme, I think effort and energy make up for a lack of scheme. Like there's going to be a few schemes where we're short, but if you play with effort, you're going to go make up. And us charting loafs, us charting missed assignments, all of that stuff, I hope is fixed in the spring. And me seeing the energy that Coach Dorrell has brought into the everyday of the weight room with the guys and Coach Harwell, we will bring that to the defense and we'll be perfectly fine. So my main thing with being a 3-man front and stopping the run, I don't think you can be stagnant, especially in this conference of, being in an odd front. I think it's important for you to be multiple and having the players for you to change up the point keys and doing all that stuff on the defensive side of the ball.
And you have, to me, I mean, there's 4 guys really stuck out to me last year. 2 being 2 seniors, Hunter Largent and Zane Adams. Those are 2 very big, athletic, physical, high energy guys there. Hunter and Zane had a monster game against Pitt State in the season finale. Probably top 5 performance out of a DD lineman in my time covering. You also, I know there's Wesley Hudson. He came on really strong as a true freshman. I think there's Johnny Wilson. I feel like he did a very good job affecting the play without maybe getting to the quarterback, playing the passing lanes. I think you have Zachary Stillwell, very high motor. I feel like there's talent in that room, along with the guys that you signed. I didn't want to touch on that because that is a very violent, physical, high energy group of defensive linemen that you signed. And it makes sense going through this interview now of what you're looking for, because it seemed to me really that whole defensive class in general, but that front 7, a lot of the characteristics you're looking for, you're getting in that class. Kind of talk about what excites you most about that defensive class that you and your staff signed.
I got to give Coach Leck a lot of praise of when I took this job, he was doing a lot of recruiting, every D lineman, every linebacker, every DB. Our GAs are phenomenal. Coach Dudley, Coach Neal. I was most impressed when I got here and Coach Dudley knew everything about every D lineman that was on that board. And, I don't think we could have put the class together without those 3 guys. And then you add Coach Harwell, who, he got here, he finalized that linebacker class very quickly. And he also knew every small detail about every one of the linebackers. So in terms of what excites me the most is all competition, is people know that we brought in depth. And one thing I know why we can be successful here is hearing the players talk. They're excited about a big class. They aren't like, coach is bringing in people to take my spot. And I think that's one thing that makes us different is if we bring in a transfer, I don't have JK mad that we brought in a corner transfer. JK is happy because we all have support and we can all rotate and we can play really fast. So to me, that's the main thing of, bringing in the number of we did, everybody fits the culture that we are trying to push of runners and hitters. Brogan Hardy, for example, he's wrestling in the state championship here at 630. That is a very tough individual. So whenever we go into looking at it is what other athletes or what sports do they do? The state of Oklahoma in wrestling is very good. So to me, if they're a wrestler, especially D-line wise, they know how to work with body control. They know how to work with levers. They know positioning, and it's a mentality. They're going to compete. They're going to be relentless. The other side of it is I do think we brought in people in the depth of the positions that we needed. D-line wise, we have a very good group, but we're very limited number wise right now. So us bringing in a defensive line room it's going to help us as a team in scout teams, but also it's going to help us go compete in fall camp because people know that everybody wants to play. Defensive back wise, bringing in the transfers that the staff has brought in is going to be huge with competition. And I'm telling you right now, the transfers that we brought in, I have not seen a faster group buy into the culture. And that is, all of Coach Dorrell, but also in the recruiting process of the kids that are here want to help change our mentality. And they are bought in. They're front runners already. They're leading the weight room. They're not just sitting in the back. So right now, the culture that we have going into spring ball, I think is vital. And then this high school class coming in, if we can keep the same energy, the same confidence and belief after spring ball, I think the sky is the limit in terms of what we can do defensively.
Now you mentioned Brogan. Now that brings me back to because you touched on Coach Harrell. I'm a big Coach Harrell guy dating back to 2022. I think by far I felt like last year, I'm not alone in this. We felt like that was the best unit on the team. We felt like it was already deep. It got deeper. Because you have, I feel like maybe one of the better trios in the conference between Connor Johnson, Jack Puckett, who came on really strong as a redshirt freshman, and Noah West, who had a tremendous 2022 season. It kind of dipped last year, we figured, because we did lose two really good pass rushers to graduation. But like, what about that unit, I guess, most excites you or most stands out to you?
There's two things. Number one is they're extremely athletic, very athletic. But also the other thing is in the weight room, they are extremely competitive within themselves. With Jack, watching him, he is a very physical guy. He trusts himself coming from a great high school program. He knows football, just talking to him. I recruited Jack as well when I was at Emporia. I remember talking to his family. I remember doing Jack's photo shoot. And when I actually got hired here and Coach Dorrell told the team, Jack was the first person to come down and talk to me. And actually Stillwell was too. So for that linebacker group, I am very excited for the depth that we have in terms of injuries going through spring ball, fall, is we have a depth and a talent in the room to be able to rotate and put people in the best position to be successful. The most important thing is their mentality is they want to compete. They are going to be very physical. And a lot of that is Coach Harwell and what he's going to bring into. Like what you said in 2022, I haven't watched that film, but watching a few games in 2023 is Connor Johnson is very athletic. He is a guy that can play C-gap and go chase down the bubble. I think there's multiple guys in the room that are waiting for their time in spring ball to go compete and, have a coach to believe in them to push themselves to go be a starter.
You mentioned 2022. Carter Johnson had a breakout season there. He was making plays. Making sacks, making TFLs, interceptions, fumble recoveries. I felt like he had a better 2022 under Coach Harrell than he did last year. He came on strong at the end of the season. But yeah, no, you mentioned the people in that room. I mean, there's still there's Reese Roller, who played some special teams last year for us. Kaisenberg played some special teams last year for us. There's what is it? Ethan Macklin. I was very high on him out of Morris in terms of his coverage ability. And then obviously the class that you signed with Brogan and Cannon and just a group there I felt like was just screamed football players. I felt like kind of the vibe I got was these are football players. You kind of feel like if you've been around the game, you kind of know. You can kind of tell. And I feel like that's kind of what we were lacking. And I feel like that's what we've got a lot of. So with all that, then I guess what kind of are your goals here that you hope to accomplish during the upcoming spring practices?
Number one is identifying what are we really good at as a defense. With us running the schematics that we do, it's very easy to put too much in, and it's very hard on linebackers and DBs. And I want them to be confident. I want them to play fast. So I think we'll know very early, probably practice 8 or 9 of spring ball, of what do we want to be known for. We know the structure, we know the base coverages, but the small details that we can change to make our guys play really fast. So that's probably my number one goal. The other one is to build a relationship with every kid and to know I am here for them. Because I think if you are in the college coaching professions, there's a direct split of why are people into the game. I want to build relationships. I do this for them. I do this to help them. One reason I chose to be a coach is it gives me an opportunity to help everybody with a different circumstance in their life. Coaching football is easy. Coaching football is the what everybody thinks is the most time. No, it's not. It's building relationships. It's getting the belief and the buy-in from the players. So going through spring ball, the competition is going to be huge in terms of, who is going to be running out their day one of fall camp. But at the end of the day, it's getting the guys to buy in and having the trust of what we do schematically will work.
Well, before we get you out of here, we do this with all the new guests, kind of more get to know you type questions. Now, I know you're a father to 2 young boys, so you probably don't have a lot of time outside of coaching and that. But do you have a favorite hobby outside of football?
Like you said, I love to spend time with my boys and my wife. Maddox, when I get home, I feel like it's WWE for 2 hours until he goes to bed. But outside of football, being from Emporia, I love to play disc golf. Being up in the north, it was tough. There wasn't as many courses. It was obviously colder. So kind of my hobbies, I am actually a big video game guy. Me and actually quite a few guys on the staff will play a lot of video games. It's kind of one thing that I'll do to de-stress. But lifting, disc golf, video games, playing out or hanging out with my family is the bulk of my time. Not very good at basketball, but we have a big players on coaches basketball game coming up. So we can't lose as coaches to the players before spring ball. We're way too competitive.
Well, as a scouting tip, now Dawson Hurl informed me now he's a decent shooter. So might want to can contain him there. He said he kind of modeled his game after Klay Thompson. Do with that as you will. But that's something I gleaned from the last interview. So I just put that out there. So
yeah. You know who I'm afraid of? Yeah, everybody's talking about Zane Adams, and I don't think I am big enough to go body for body with Zane right now. I'll try my best. There ain't going to be a free layup, but seeing him in the weight room and the way he moves, there may have to be some fouls. I'm going to make him shoot from the free throw line, not the block.
Yeah, my first introduction to Zane was watching his high school film at high school. I think he was 250 at that time. And the first clip was him at running back breaking like a 60-yard run. And I said, okay, this is a different cat. So, yeah, I wouldn't advise getting in his way. I wouldn't be trying to draw charges. If it was me personally, maybe you kind of come up from behind, hit him when he's shooting.
Hey. Coach Dorrell may not like it, but I may try to take him out of the game. I got to win.
Oh, that's great. All right, now you mentioned you played video games. So now are we Xbox, PlayStation, or PC?
PlayStation. I always played PlayStation my entire life. I'll play pretty much anything, Rocket League, some Warzone. I'm actually terrible at 2K. I quit playing it. I don't like to lose, so I'm not going to waste my time. And then I thought I was good at Madden. And then my first week here, Coach Dudley kept talking, and he beat Curley in the offensive staff room 21-0. And so I was doing a little scouting report. So it was like that night I invite Coach Dudley to a game. First game, he beats me 21-0 in like a quarter and a half. And I was like, this is ridiculous. So I'm now starting to train to beat Coach Dudley going into spring ball.
Well, now, because I've seen that on Twitter because they'll be challenging recruits, and he keeps posting every time that nobody's beating him. Now, J-Mo has told me he's the best Madden player on the team. So maybe playing against him might help prepare you. Now, no one has substantiated that with a lot of confidence behind it. When I've asked others, is that in fact the case? No one's really confirmed it. Some say feign ignorance. So I do that as you will. He claims he has a certain playbook that he won't divulge. He claims he has a certain playbook that he uses. So he didn't want to divulge those secrets.
Yeah.
So no one's backed it up. So
yeah, we may need to get it set up in the locker room downstairs on the TVs, and that can be a competition before spring ball.
Let's see. Okay. Let's see. Do you have a favorite sports team?
I actually don't. I get this a lot being from Kansas. Everybody thinks I'm a Chiefs fan. I don't watch too much basketball. I'm actually a much bigger players fan than an organization. Obviously, watching Mahomes right now is incredible. My all-time favorite player is Tamba Ali with the Chiefs. I think a lot of my coaching techniques, aiming points, when to throw moves is a lot of breaking down his film. So big players fan. Somebody I played in high school was Tevin Jenkins. He was an O lineman at Topeka High, went to Oklahoma State, got drafted to the Bears with Justin Fields' draft class. So he was a starting guard there for 2 years. So I'd say right now I'm a big Bears fan because of watching him, just me playing against him in high school and seeing him dominate at the NFL level.
So with now your fandom kind of lying with the Bears, is Justin Fields the guy?
I think so. I'm going to have the confidence in him. I think, is it Moore, the receiver that got brought in? I think you see a big step in Justin Fields when they brought in a weapon. I do think the confidence, if Justin Fields has confidence, he dominates. There was a good stretch last year where he played well. Now, on the flip side is Gannon played Shepard the year before I got there. And me watching that film, the Bears starting quarterback for 3 or 4 weeks was the D2 quarterback from Shepard. So it was really cool watching him play. He's a guy that comes out of the PSAC. There's a lot of talent there. That was really cool. Once again, made me a Bears fan, seeing another D2 guy play. Like, I love watching the Packers play because they have D2 safeties that start for them. So yeah, Justin Fields, think he's the guy. They just gotta keep getting some pieces around him.
Okay. Now, do you think that they trade down in the draft to get more picks, or you think that they stick wherever they're at, and if they don't take a quarterback, they just take Marvin Harrison Jr. or offensive lineman or something of that kind of nature?
Well, what I think Poles has done a good job is getting draft capital. If you can trade down, if it's a few positions, I don't think that's the end of the world. Get yourself more depth. They showed a lot of success with that the last 2 years. But if you can get Marvin Harrison, I think it's something that you have to do. He's very good. I was at Ohio State when I was up at Gannon. They had a mega camp, and I saw Marvin Harrison. We actually got to stay and watch an OTA. I got to sit in D-line meetings with Coach Larry Johnson. Learned a lot from him in 50 minutes, just sitting there writing notes. Jim Knowles allowed us to sit in their full defensive meeting. But I'll tell you, when I saw Marvin Harrison Jr., he did not lose a single sprint in any of their warm-ups, special teams drill work. He holds himself to a different standard than I've ever seen. Now, I've never been at the Division I level, but he is a different guy. He, just in the short amount of time I saw, one of my teammates is actually a strength coach at Ohio State, Logan Powell, and he just said the attention to detail that Marvin Harrison has. He said you might walk into the indoor at 6 a.m., 5:30 a.m., and they have like an automated jugs machine. He'll be in there running routes. He said it's a different work ethic than anybody else. So to me, if you have that at Ohio State and you separated yourself, the sky's the limit in the NFL. So I would not be mad if they drafted him. Just give him another weapon to go make plays.
Let's see. Okay, your favorite food.
Ooh, I'm a big food guy. If people know me, I always say I'm a fat kid at heart. I love food way too much. I would say Italian food. Just you can get pizza in there. I'm a big pasta guy. Being in Emporia, it had really good Mexican food. So there for a while, I would have said Mexican food. But just being in Erie, bigger city than Emporia, it's about 100,000 people. And then coming to Edmond, there's way too much Italian food for me. So me and my wife, we're trying to hold it to 1 day a week. We're going to order food in for the family.
Now, I know we mentioned JK earlier. Now, JK informed me he can make some mean pasta. So, he didn't really divulge that until he kind of mentioned it. But so, you can never ask him, hey, pasta. I know when I talked to Coach Dorrell a few years ago, he touched on he has this great recipe for chicken wings. So there's that as well. So yeah, there are some cooks on the team. What I've been told.
Well, it sounds like JK can do everything. Is what I'm hearing. So I'm gonna have to see it when I believe it.
Let's see. Okay, your favorite musical artist.
Favorite musical what?
Artist.
I'm actually a big rap guy, so I like old school rap. But right now, just if I had to go work out or go do something, it's going to be Youngboy. So being in the weight room with the guys right now, they listen to a lot of NBA Youngboy. But I really listen to everything. I'm not a big country fan, but it has to be like faster paced country. I can listen to it. So I wouldn't say I have like a too big of like, this is the guy I listen to every day.
Now, I'm not going to lie. I disappointed in the response of NBA Youngboy. At like 90% of the guys I talk to, it's either NBA Youngboy, or the baby, little baby, and I'm like, there's got to be more than those three rappers out in the game now. That I haven't listened to a lot of popular rap anymore. I'm more of a stick to my 2010, 2016 stuff. I've been more into the Houston rap as of late, but I just know there has to be more than just NBA Youngboy. Now, what they keep telling me is NBA Youngboy does a good job of getting you hyped. Now, would that be an accurate statement?
That would.
Okay.
That would. Absolutely. He'll be the first guy. If I go in the weight room and I'm going to max, I'm going to listen to him.
Okay. I think that now I know you mentioned you do this in the country. I know Hunter, big country guy. I think when he came on, he had this great breakdown of like the difference between new country, old country, Red Dirt. It was a beautiful breakdown. So if you ever want country music, I think him, Andrew Corney, I've been told, is also really big into country music. So I think those would be two of your guys there. And then I also was told if you want weird music, Lemuel Gordon is more of your guy. I've been told that's not who you want on the aux chord, what I've been told. They said he's the worst on the aux chord. So I just I'm just putting that out there. So I don't know if that's still a thing. I know a few years ago, someone told me someone put on some R&B Drake for a morning workout, which I don't understand why that was a thing. So yeah, I know the music taste in locker room can kind of vary. So
yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, whenever they go work out, my office is directly above the locker room. You can tell who was on the aux that day. That's for sure. So hear the music clear as day. I can already tell you before I go down there, the energy. If it's country, it's going to be a little bit slower energy in the weight room to start. If I hear some young boy, I look outside and I already see some guys sprinting out there. So, to each their own in their music taste.
That's great. Let's see. Now I had to ask because the background picture that we have here. Now I know you can't really see it. Now I know that some coaches might wear a chain. That might have a chain on, maybe two at the most. But I gotta say, when I looked at that picture more closely yesterday, I'm like, this man has to have on between 3 and 6 chains. So I have to now, like, do you have to flex that hard when you coach it again, right? Because they feel like your defense is already flexing hard, you're getting stops, you're getting set. And then they look on the opposing sideline and the man responsible for it is all decked out here in like 50 chains. Like, I have to ask, like, what is that? Just do you just naturally roll like that when you coach? Like, they just know when they see the multiple chains, that's Coach Swanson coming? Like, what? I'm just curious here.
So that's actually a photo from the 2022 season. We were actually, I believe, playing Edinburgh. For some reason, I remember that. So our starting running back, Melvin Blanks, who was an All-American, if you see in the photo, it has like a number 2, and then the other chain was his. So for some reason, I always called myself the swag coordinator because I was the equipment guy and always joke around with the players. He actually gave me both of his chains right before the game would start. It was just kind of like a tradition. And then after the second game, our All-American guard, Montana Nieder, he gave me his chain. So at that point in the season, it was just, the standard of after warmups, they'd come over, give them to me, and I'll try to rock out, look the best I can. So I do not own those chains.
I was thinking.
I own one of them.
I had to put this flavor in there.
Yeah, my brother bought me one, so we'll see if we carry that tradition on. It looks good, though.
Okay, because see, I thought that because I know with Texas this past year when the running back was hurt, he wore all the other chains. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe it's a similar thing. Well, you have to have it. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. I was about to say now, like, there's no way this man's just casually wearing 3 to 6 chains.
No, one of them are mine.
It's like, man, that's no. Now you mentioned that you kind of were responsible for the swag. Now, again, going back to J-Mo here, he claims he's the swaggiest guy on the team. Now that's been disputed by some. Some have told me on the offensive side, Jacob Delso is swaggier. So it's been disputed. Now, were you the type when you played? Now, were you big into the gear, or were you more so of just like, give me the basics and let me play? Now, I know you were rocking a single digit, so that kind of alone there. It's different for a D lineman. You were a single digit as a D lineman. That's kind of want to stand out there. So, like, aside from that, was there more to it, or was that just like the extent of kind of your?
No, I was pretty basic. I always wore one arm sleeve. And that was about it. Just an arm sleeve. And when I was wearing my knee brace, I'd have like a sleeve under my knee brace, which I guess looked good. But no, I was pretty basic. I didn't have much swag as a player. But going back to J-Mo, and, I may have to throw somebody else in there. J-Mo, he was looking good. And then the other day he was wearing overalls with a white shirt. And I was like, you think you look good right now? And he was like, Coach, I have the most swag on the team. And then after workouts, I was walking out and I saw Kobe Stevens in a turtleneck flexing his chain. I may have to throw Kobe Stevens up there. He has a little bit of swag, a little bit different what am I trying to say? Outfits on than the rest.
Okay, see now, Mosley's going to take credit for that. So because when Kobe first got here, man had no gear. It was to the point when I talked to him, I was like, were you aware that there was gear for you to wear? Because he only had a towel and gloves. I mean, there was no bands, no nothing. I thought maybe it's a freshman thing where I would. So then Mosley said he was working on that with him. So I'm sure if you ask Mosley, he's going to take some credit for Kobe's, I guess, upping his swag game, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, I had noticed that he kind of has gotten a little bit more gear. I know Hunter's kind of on the side of like, he's not big on on the sleeves. I know he kind of feels like some guys are kind of scared of the turf burns. I know that's kind of when it was one of his gripes. Now you mentioned you wore one sleeve, so why one sleeve and not two sleeves?
Actually, so there was a point in the year where we would like match up defensive ends on tackles, kind of depending on your skill set, not as much scheme. So I'd actually wear the arm sleeve on like my inside hand. I was going to play that game because I had a really bad problem of like taking face mask to my elbow as a D end. So it was just a padded sleeve to try to take away a little bit of that force. It wasn't for the looks. It was actually all for my protection.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I guess my final question for you is, what can UCO fans expect to see out of Cody Swanson's defensive unit in the upcoming 2024 season?
It all goes back to that acronym chaos of we're going to have big belief in runners and hitters. We are going to have a very confident group in terms of they will know the team, the schematics of it inside and out. But my main thing is just being relentless in all aspects of being relentless in effort, being relentless in celebrating together, being relentless in technique. So what are you going to see is just a lot of fun, a lot of energy, and then just having a different type of swagger, not the cockiness, but the swagger of I can go make this play. If I'm a corner put on an island, Coach Swanee has all of the faith in me to go do it. There's, if we lose games, it ain't on the players, it's on me as a coach. If we win games, it's all on the players. There's nothing I did schematically to put us into that position. So that is really what I want them to know is everything that we will do is for the players. So when you watch the game film, what you're going to see, people trusting themselves. When do I take a shot? When do I need to get to a short stride? But at the end of the day, when you see I love you celebration, that's the culture. That is the oneness that we will have as a unit is we're going to play for each other. We're not playing for ourselves. It's playing for the team.
Well, Coach, I appreciate you taking time this afternoon to come on and talk to us. We're really looking forward to seeing what you guys do this spring. I hope to get to at a minimum the spring game, if not a practice or two. But I'm wishing you the best of luck in the spring. Anytime you want to come back on, more than happy to have you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And I take a lot of enjoyment of watching your show. And I think it's very important at this level to send out, the content at the Division II level. And I think University of Central Oklahoma is a special place, and what Coach Dorrell does is special. So, whatever I can do to help you and whatever we can do as a football program to help you, just let me know, and we'll do our best to, push everything forward.
Oh, great, coach. I really do. I really do appreciate that. I always felt from the first time I covered the game back in 2017 and realized the high level of football, and realized that okay, there was maybe not many people know about it. Really, I think you see the two, and I think people kind of discount it already. When in actuality, it's really good high level football. You mentioned before, there's guys on Sunday that come from the D2 level. So I've just tried to do my best to educate and get more eyes on it because there are talented players at this level that deserve coverage too. And so that's kind of been my mindset throughout this whole thing. So I really do appreciate the kind words there, and you watching the content. It really does mean a lot.
Absolutely. My my parents are actually up here this weekend, and the first thing my dad said was that he listened to your show of our recruiting class. And then I feel like my dad was quizzing me on every kid. So, what you're doing is getting watched. And then you talking about just the skill level at D2. During my time at Gannon, I was very fortunate to have the D linemen and everybody that we had. But actually, there's a few kids just in my time there. Of Nick White was a defensive end who played for me. He actually just signed his agent. He has his pro day coming up. Obi was another DN for me that he actually committed to Oklahoma State. Hopefully he's a guy that'll make it to the next level. We had Chris Farnsworth who played in the All-Star game, but then you transition to coming here. And, I think the main difference is the O-linemen are a lot bigger in this conference, to be honest with you, a lot more athletic. So, I'm a huge fan of the D2 level, just me playing it and really, trying to help the guys here better themselves. But like I said, big time is where you are. Big time, it's no longer like have a mentality going somewhere else. It's big time's where your feet are. And, hopefully we're really good here and we can help a few of these players get a chance at the next level.
Yeah, no, I agree. The MIAA, I mean, to me, I feel like it probably rivals what you see on the D1 level. Like you said, there's big physical athletic guys. You've got burners. I know there's a guy from Washburn, I think won a Grey Cup up there in Canada this past year. You had the Nathan Shepard spend time in the league. I think there was a guy from Northwest Missouri a few years ago. There's Zach Davidson. So no, there's very good talent. I mean, even for our standpoint, we had a receiver not too long ago with the Chiefs. He played in Canada. He's now playing for the Tulsa Oilers of the Indoor Football League. We have Rob Fuentes playing in the Indoor Football League now. There's Trayvon Craig playing over in Japan. We've got Draquan Brown playing in the Indoor Football League. So no, I mean, there's a lot of talent, and with the UFL now and Canada and indoor football, I think there's a lot of opportunities for those guys to still continue to play the game at a high level, maybe open up some more eyes that, hey, there's more talent outside of your D1s, that there are guys at every level that's really good players. So so no, I'm very happy to be covering the way I cover, because to me, I feel like I don't know, I feel like I'm covering something or on something that not everybody knows about, and so to me, it's like, hey, I mean, you can, but no, I will always pound the table for Division II athletes, because I mean, they're really good. So, no, so I apologize for the fact that you got quizzed over your signing class. I mean,
No, it's my parents, my family, we've always been very involved in athletics. And my dad might be my hardest critic in recruiting. And there'll be a point where he was like, Cody, you need to go sign a D tackle. And he's like on me harder than Coach Rayburn was. I'm like, I know I need to, like, I'm trying. So then coming here, he was always calling me, asking me about the D-line signing class. And then when Coach Leck left, like, Antoine Gilbreth from Decatur, like, he was calling me. He's like, I saw you offered him. And then it got to the point where he was sending me transfers. I'm like, I know, Dad, I've talked to him. So, I think that's a little bit different, is when your dad is on you harder than the head coach, sometimes you better produce and bring some players in.
Oh, that's good. That is great. So it's like it's never ending for you, pretty much. So like even if you leave the office, there's still.
Yep. And then on the flip side is my wife is very involved in recruiting too. So whenever I get done talking to a kid, she can probably give my exact recruiting pitch to every kid. So if I just like handed her the phone, she could take off. But, she knows where the kid's hometown is, what their families do. I'm very fortunate to have a family that supports me and, my obsession with football and trying to take us to that next level.
Good. Yeah, that's good. I mean, I know they make a lot of things people don't realize is the families of a coach also kind of have to sacrifice just so much time and effort goes into coaching, from the recruiting to the film to the meeting to the practices. So they also sacrifice a lot. So it's good you have that support system there to understand, and in some cases keep hounding you to to continue being the best coach possible. But no, I do. Please tell your father I appreciate him watching that sign day special. I don't know. My voice was giving out like halfway through it, but I think it came out okay. I was kind of disappointed. So like I'm my own worst critic at times, because I'm like I recorded. That was the second recording. I recorded the first one and was just like, no, that's not it. So then I re-recorded, and then halfway through, I'm like, okay, my voice is about to give out. This has to be it. So, so it didn't come out exactly as I had wanted to, but the reception to it has been good. So that's all I can really ask for. So, but no, I do appreciate the support. So
absolutely.
Like I said, any other time you want to come back on, be more than happy to bring you back on. And like I said before, I'm wishing you the best of luck spring and moving forward into the off season and to the regular season.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time.
No problem. Thank you, Coach.